One of the first questions I asked, and was asked as a little kid on the playground, was, what's your favorite color? And of course everybody picks one of the colors of the rainbow. But mostly red, blue, green, and half the people pick pink, at least at that time. You know what you never heard? Gray. Poor gray. It's the color of a day with bad weather. It's the color of getting old and dying, and it's unanimously considered boring. Maybe everybody should just lay off gray for a minute. See what it really can offer. Maybe we give it a chance, just maybe. It can be the cool color on the playground. You're listening to the Mind the Gap podcast, bridging the gap between your minds and everything else. I'm Mackie Drew.
And I'm Keegan Gwydolin.
And our show today is called All the Colors of the Grey-nbow. And it's our show about gray things, not grains.
Common misconception. So the first thing I want to talk about is the whole gray versus gray controversy. And that refers to the spelling. So there's two ways to spell the word gray, and they both refer to the color. So one is AY and one is EY, right? So, Mackie, which one do you
I'm just thinking about this. I think I use EY, but it never really, is, on the top of my mind. I think I probably, if it was a color, I'd spell it like AY, but if it was like a compound, then I'd do an EY. Or if I was to do, say, Earl Grey, I think I'd do EY.
I would consider you correct, because the first recorded use of the term gray, which spelled EY, as the name of a color in English was in 700 AD.
So it was a word before then?
Well, we don't know.
Oh. Okay.
We just know that the first recorded use of it was EY, and it was in 700 AD.
That's not that long ago, honestly.
As it turns out, the EY is the British, Canadian, Australian, Irish, New Zealand, and South African spelling.
So pretty much the Commonwealth?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And AY is the American spelling, which only came about in 1825.
Okay, good. So I know who to say is wrong now.
All right. So now I'd like to talk about my personal favorite kind of tea. I order it every time. If you don't have this kind, I don't want tea. And that is Earl Grey tea.
Yes. I remember I got you some Earl Grey tea. Is it delicious?
It is delicious. It's wonderful. Yeah. All right. So the history of Earl Grey tea. It is, first of all, a black tea, normal black tea, but it's blended with the oil extracted from the rind of this citrus fruit called a bergamot orange.
Bergamot.
Is it actually bergamot?
Yeah. It's not a silent T.
Oh, that's so disappointing.
Sorry.
Anyway, this is an orange which blossoms in the winter and is grown commercially in Italy.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Like snowy winter?
Well, I don't know how winter is in Italy, personally.
That's fair.
But interestingly, the orange is a hybrid of two other citrus fruits, the sweet lemon and the bitter orange.
Oh, I had no idea.
Which apparently make this bergamot orange. Yeah. I kind of wanted to eat a bergamot orange.
Me too. I don't know where I'd even begin to get one, though. I love
Italy. Italy is where you'd begin.
I don't have a lot of connections to Italy. You're my strongest connection to Italy.
Yeah, my pseudo half Italian background. Anyway, this black tea blended with bergamot oil, Earl Grey, was originally made to imitate expensive Chinese teas as far back as the 1850s. So the idea was that, in Britain way back in the day, you would have Chinese teas which would fetch a high price at market, and you'd have the more, I guess, traditionally grown black teas, which are, less exotic, so they're less expensive. So if you're trying to make a knockoff, it's sort of like the Walmart brand of Chinese tea.
I know of a fiasco. I'm not going to name names and companies, but there's a really rare milk oolong tea which tastes sort of milky, and somebody was found out imitating this with the addition of baby formula. So they mixed in baby formula to make it taste milky. So I guess these traditional, the prized Chinese teas of the time sort of had a bergamot-y flavor to them, and they were just trying to imitate this, I guess.
Yeah. It makes me want to taste like the teas that they actually had back then, because you can't even be sure it's the same now.
Yeah, for sure. Like the banana we have now is nothing like the banana we had 50 years ago, and so on. So you couldn't really know what it used to taste like. But I mean, we can know what Earl Grey tasted like because we're always using the same oils, right? So
yeah. Anyways, the tea is named after the second Earl Grey, who was the British Prime Minister in the 1830s. And he reportedly received this as a gift of tea flavored with bergamot oil. And the legend is that a Chinese mandarin whose son was rescued by one of the Lord Grey's men from drowning first presented the blend to Earl Grey in 1803. This is probably not true.
Oh yeah, well, it's totally. That sounds exactly like a made-up story. Yeah,
and it's listed on the Twinings website.
Okay,
as the history of Earl Grey tea or whatever. And this is according to the Grey family. The tea was specially blended by a Chinese mandarin for Lord Grey to suit the water at a manor of theirs called Howick Hall, and it was different because, the bergamot was added to offset the lime in the local water.
Oh. See, that sounds boring enough to be true.
Yeah. And also kind of interesting that the Chinese mandarin was like, oh, yes, there's lime in this water, so I'll add this to compensate.
Yeah. Does that actually... I guess that would work, wouldn't it? Since lime's alkaline and the bergamot would be acidic?
I don't know.
Okay.
I guess.
Great. Good information, Keegan.
Yeah. Sure. There are some variations on Earl Grey. There's Lady Earl Grey, which may combine Earl Grey with either lavender or Seville oranges. There is French Earl Grey, which is Earl Grey and rose petals, which I don't really know why, other than to be flashy. Would you add rose petals?
Well, rose petals make things taste like flowers. Some people like that. I do not.
There's Russian Earl Grey, which is Earl Grey plus vodka. No, it's Earl Grey plus citrus peels and lemongrass.
Oh, wait, so there's not vodka?
No, it's not
okay,
vodka.
I thought you were serious. Oh, my God. Oh. So the first thing I thought about when we thought about gray things for this episode, I decided to do gray matter. You know, it was, in your brain. It was literally on the top of my mind. But the... yeah. So there's I didn't actually know what gray matter was. I thought it was just a generic term for brain stuff, right? But
you fool.
It's actually a special designation for basically where all your thinking happens, right? It's like the primary processing unit of your brain, and that's in contrast to white matter, which is more of like a highway where, your brain communicates between itself. Well, to be clear here, gray matter is actually not gray. It's only gray after oxygen has oxygen stopped being pumped through. So if you open up a dead person, then their brain would be gray in the gray parts. But it would if they were still alive, then you'd be seeing a pink brain. I've got a few pieces of trivia about this, little pieces of research that people have done. Apparently men have about 6.5 times as much gray matter than women, but women have much more white matter.
That sounds very significant.
It is. Well, see, the thing is, it's about 40%. Your brain is about 40% gray matter, okay. And 60% white matter, and other assorted things. So you have 6.5 times the amount of gray matter, but they would have, say, I think it's 9 times as much white matter, because proportionally you need to get more. So they think that maybe they don't quite understand the role of white and gray matter as well as you might think.
Interesting.
Because, women don't seem to have any deficiencies in processing, so But interesting, pathological liars have a notable less gray matter, like a notable amount of less gray matter. So they actually found people by basically interviewing them, asking them questions about their past, and then going into their past to see if they've lied. And they found like 6 or 7 people that were like really severe pathological liars. And the one thing that they shared is they all had significantly less amounts of gray matter.
That sounds correlational.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but it's could come to something. I mean, we don't see this in many other cases, right? Unless you've got like brain damage or like developmental disorders. But pathological liars seem to have much less gray matter and much more white matter, in fact.
Interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, apparently if children are subjected to physical abuse when they're young, they tend to have less gray matter in their prefrontal cortex, which is sort of their planning and center of the brain, personal.
Well, it does all your like higher level functions.
Yeah, exactly. It's about your personality and decision making and social behavior. So
yeah, I've heard that as well. It's that you can give children huge cognitive deficits through abuse at a young age.
Yeah, you made it sound like a procedure a second ago. You can do this by... and then you're like, well, I don't want to say that. There have apparently been some positive correlations found between the volume of gray matter in elderly persons and the amount of short-term memory loss. And there was no significant correlations with white matter volume.
So, wait, do you mean that the more gray matter you have, the more short-term memory you have?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Gotcha.
That's something to think about. Do you think that goes between men and women?
What do you mean?
Keeping in mind that men have much more gray matter.
Oh.
Do you think that would mean that they have better short-term memory?
I have no idea.
Somebody needs to look into that. But yeah, apparently older smokers tend to lose gray matter much more quickly than non-smokers. But if they quit, it actually stops the extra loss of gray matter.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so you could like literally be losing gray matter quickly and then stop smoking, and then suddenly you aren't losing it as quickly. So you improve your short-term memory loss.
Yeah,
I guess.
Nice.
Improve. Okay.
You wouldn't lose it as quickly, basically.
Yes,
right?
exactly. But apparently a lower volume of gray matter on the right side of the brain has been correlated with longer duration of bipolar disorders and the number of incidences. So 20% of the oxygen that your body takes in goes to your brain, and about 95% of that goes to your gray matter. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, huge. Like they're crazy hungry for oxygen. Apparently, I forget. It was one researcher said that it will take as much oxygen as it can get. It really could just eat all day. So I don't know what that's about. Do you know? Sorry,
I find that interesting because your white matter, as I was talking about, it's reliant on myelin. But the myelin is actually formed by other cells. Like the way it's formed is that cells will physically wrap themselves around the brain's nerve fibers. And so there's even more cells in the white matter to sustain. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe they are just don't need as much power, I guess. You know, they're just relaying signals that can't take nearly as much power as processing.
Yeah,
it's maybe so profoundly different in that even those extra cells don't account for that. But apparently a higher IQ is associated with less white matter and more gray matter. So, which we mentioned is not necessarily the case for men and women, but between the genders. Yeah. So those are some fun facts about gray matter. Some things I didn't know there. Some really weird things there.
I'd like to talk about, you talked about how gray matter affects you as you age and all that sort of thing. And the other thing that people may think of when they hear the term gray, and we're talking about aging, is obviously gray hair. And a lot of people worry about graying hair and all that stuff. Everyone knows that hair grays with age, and this is medically known as achromotrichia. So that's chromo meaning color, trichia meaning hair, and A meaning not. So not colored hair.
Yes, you gotta love Latinization.
Yes. People think that this is a sort of elderly person's disease or condition.
Condition, yeah.
But graying begins in the mid-20s in men and the late 20s in women.
Wow.
Yeah, there are people in my class who are starting to go gray. Not me yet, thankfully.
I feel like you're going to gray young. I don't know why.
It's possible.
I feel like you're going to get those 2 like sideburn grays, and then you're going to be done for like 10 years, and then you'll get like full gray.
Oh, that's terrible. Anyway, the age at which graying occurs appears to be due almost entirely to genetics. There are some other factors that I'll talk about, but genetics are a huge factor. And the way that gray hairs, or the reason that hair grays, is because hair is given pigment by cells called melanocytes in your hair follicle. And when the melanocytes and the cells that make melanocytes die, which they do sort of naturally with age, the hair begins to lose its color, and it begins to age. And since there's no cell to give the hair that's still growing, there's no cell to give it more pigment to give it color, the hair goes to its sort of default color, which is gray. People think that stress is a major contributor to graying, but this doesn't have any real evidence behind it. So, don't worry about getting stressed out and getting gray hair. A lot of people think that will happen. There is a chemotherapy agent known in North America as Gleevec, and it's been shown to reverse the graying process, which is crazy and could be hugely cosmetically lucrative, except for the fact that it's a chemotherapy agent and very, very awful. That chemotherapy is just miserable.
Now they have a hint, though. That's the important thing. They know that there's something working there.
They don't know the mechanism, though. They don't know how it's reversing the graying process.
Now, if only there was some sort of pigment you can put on your hair to dye your follicles a certain color. I don't see the big deal. It's just dye your hair. I mean, the only thing that graying can do to you is make you think, oh, I'm aging. But you know that. And you know that you can fix it.
People like to lie to themselves.
Well, no, maybe we should just tell them, rather than that they're getting old and they're graying, that maybe, mid-20 people get gray hairs all the time. You're younger because of your gray hair.
I don't think I'm going to dye my hair. I mean, I say that now, but I honestly don't think I could be bothered.
Yeah, no, it seems like a lot of work.
Anyway, I know I said that graying is almost entirely due to genetics. Well, that little caveat is because a 1996 study in the British Medical Journal showed that tobacco smoking may cause premature graying.
Huh.
So that's something. The other thing that's sort of a technicality is that graying can also result from poor nutrition and vitamin deficiencies like B12. So this is a case where you just don't have the raw materials necessary to build the colored pigments to put in your hair.
Okay, now here's the question. Do you think if we suddenly stopped this person from having poor nutrition, they'd suddenly have colored hair again?
They would. And what you see is, in people who are malnourished, you'll see what's called...
stripes.
Yes, you'll see stripes. It's called the flag sign, I think. And it literally looks like there's banding in the hair. So you can see when they got nutrition and when they were deprived.
That's pretty cool.
It's like rings on a tree, kind of.
Now here's what you might not know anything about this, and I'm just asking here, but sometimes you see people who are they're like 80, and they've got white hair. Like we wouldn't call it even gray at this point. They got white hair, and you got another guy who's 80, and he's got like maybe a gray hair. Like it's still gray. It's very gray. It's not pepper and salt. It's gray. Yeah. Why?
It's because I read this. I'm a little bit iffy on it, but the default is white. Some people may still keep some of their melanocytes.
Okay, so they keep some function. It never goes away.
Yeah, so you keep some, and then you get some hairs that are black or darker colored, and they sort of show through the white and sort of give it a gray tint.
Okay, well, and there's not a lot of research into this, right? So you can't really say much, but
yeah. So I did some combing, and there's not a lot combing through the research, and there's not a lot of it to be found. I mean, it makes sense. Not a lot of people are funding gray hair.
It's got a fix
It's not
already.
a life-threatening thing, and yeah, it has a fix. Not to say that I think that if you came out with a cure for graying that was like,
Oh, no doubt, yeah.
a one-shot deal, man, you could make a pretty penny.
Well, we've already seen this. We had a solution to hair growth for a while. Just shave it off. But, if people still get laser hair removal, right?
That's true. All right. Well, what you got, Mackie?
All right. So I thought that sticking with my my trend of not really doing the topic, gray matter's not gray, and neither are greyhounds. Greyhounds are sometimes grayish, but not commonly. It's mostly that they're white or brown or some mix of the two. But, they're like a classic dog breed. So I thought that might be fun to do. And they have a gray in the name, so that counts, right? Right? Yeah.
Close enough, I guess.
All right, cool.
We're recording, so I can't scold you now.
All right, so just a little bit about the history. People have found like old, like hieroglyphic paintings of things that look like greyhounds, like back like 2000 BCE. And this is like in Egypt. And people have thought for a while that this was it. This was the greyhound. So they thought this is an ancient breed, like really ancient breed. But recent DNA evidence has suggested that it's not quite that simple. They think it was a similar dog used for a similar purpose, but it appears that it was they came from herding dogs from like 600 BCE rather than 2000. So it's still old, no doubt. But in fact, it's old enough to be the only dog mentioned by name in the Bible.
Really?
So, yeah. But yeah, they were originally designed and bred to be coursing dogs. So it's basically they're sent out to catch prey. So think like those old fox hunts where all these guys on horses let out a dog and then they chased it and they're like, haha, it's great success, gents.
No, they let out a fox.
Yeah. These guys were not intended to do fox hunts. They did deer hunts initially, but they were very quickly reformatted to work with rabbits. So they were rabbit hunters.
And that's what they chase at the dog track, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Back in the 1920s, they started racing, and they'd have that rabbit, and it's kind of like the iconic thing for the breed. That's how I knew them by. But yeah, it's interesting. For the breeding, they haven't really worked with genetic engineering for them yet. But just for the the traditional artificial selection, apparently, if you breed them for racing, they don't do very well in racing. But if you breed one that's been racing with one that's been coursing, like hunting the prey, they do tend to do much better. Those are the ones that win. But yeah, back in the it was sort of like on and off their popularity for being pets. Yeah, they've had booms and busts in that case, but not really been a big pet animal. But interestingly, they can actually run really quickly, like at top speeds, 20 meters per second, which is
what?
Stupid fast.
That's absurd.
It is because the thing is, they're sprinters. They sprint, and then that's they're done after a short while, 100 meters, and they're done. They can run really quick, really fast. And
that is, I don't know if that's true. 20 meters per second is 72 kilometers an hour.
They can run really fast. That's the record speed. So yes, they can. They've got the fastest or the highest percentage of fast twitch muscle tissue of any breed in the world. So fast twitch muscle tissue, for those of you who don't know, is muscle that doesn't use oxygen. It just uses ATP, basically like shipped in, and sugar. And
so it just uses the things that are in the cell, as opposed to, when you're breathing hard, when you're running, you're providing oxygen to all your muscles. It doesn't even need that.
Yeah, it stores up this amount and then it just expends it really quickly. This is like the escape mechanism, right? And they've got a lot of this muscle, which is why they can travel absurdly quickly.
72 kilometers an hour.
But yeah, they're actually pretty intelligent because they are coursing dogs, and most coursing dogs are very intelligent. But if you've ever seen them, they're very muscular. Like they're kind of slender, but like their legs are all muscle. They've got that big chest for breathing and whatnot. They're like
that big chest for breathing.
Well, like it's designed for breathing. It's like a big like air sac. It's like tiny little waist, and then they've got this huge chest, huge lungs. This is interesting where they have a huge like range for puppies. So like they can have in their litters, they can have anywhere between 1 and 12 puppies, where it's normal to have 5 to 10 for any other dog breed. Most other dog breeds. So yeah, they can have a lot more or a lot less. Very random. I'm not sure what causes that. But they also have very large hearts. Makes sense, right? And they have a very thin and light skeleton.
Again, makes sense.
Yeah, they actually when they are used for pet use, breeders always recommend that you keep them on a leash at all times, because even the most well-trained dog can't help themselves if they see like a squirrel run by. It's so deeply ingrained. They just go, and you couldn't catch them with a car even. Like what? It's going to kill whatever it sees. It should be on a leash at all times. But it's interesting. They're really good pets because they don't need a lot of space. They don't care. They're big dogs, but they don't care. They're fine. And they actually sleep 18 hours a day.
Wow.
Yeah. So they just see, this is what I'm trying to get across. Yeah. Of course, 20 meters per second is absurd, but all they do is wait for that one little short dash.
Yeah.
And everything else in their life is dedicated to that dash. So it can make sense in that context.
Still, that's so fast. It's crazy fast.
Yeah, it is. Anyway, so you want to go to the game section now?
Yes, let's. All right, welcome to our games section, and we'll start off with our 5-minute challenge. In the 5-minute challenge, one of us challenges the other to learn as much about a random topic in 5 minutes of research or less. And last week, I challenged Mackie to learn as much as possible about the bagpipes. So, What do you got?
Okay, so I got some stuff here. I was really interested in the bagpipes, so I'm going to have to go back after this and look up more, but here's what I've got. It's traceable back to 1000 BCE in the Middle East, which is something I didn't expect at all. It basically consists of, the basic construction is an air supply, so the thing you blow into, a bag, and at least one drone, and it usually has chanters as well, which I'll explain in a second. A drone is a constant tone. So, you hear bagpipes and it's got like a whole bunch of different things going on. It's got the tones that you just hear, and then it's got the actual things that the melody that's being manipulated. So a chanter would be the thing that's being manipulated. It's sort of like a recorder attached. Or a flute attached to the bag. And then the drones are things that just constantly make the same noise, almost like a kazoo. And it's actually pretty widely seen. It's not like a constant anything other than like traditional like Scottish music. It doesn't make a lot of constant appearances in genres, but it has made appearances in like rock and metal and jazz and hip hop and punk and classical music.
Of course.
It's often played at funerals, and it has a lot of military history, including the Canadian military. And it's okay to say bagpipe or bagpipes. So just for the one, this is a bagpipe or this is a bagpipes, I guess.
Oh, really?
These are bagpipes, I guess would be the way to say it. You know, it's like a
This
pair.
is a bag. This is a bagpipes.
This is a bagpipes. You just add an extra S when you want to pluralize. This is a bagpipes snake. All right. So you got anything else?
Well, let's see. You got that. So basically, you blow into the air supply, which is like the bag, and then you squeeze the bag with your like under your elbow usually, and that pushes it through the reeds that are in the drones and through the chanter as well. So you got that. The origin of the bagpipe you got 1000 BC, and the way that the form that it was found in was through sculptures. They found sculptures of people playing bagpipes. There's many forms of bagpipes, but the typically known version is the Scottish version, which is called the Great Highland Bagpipe. And it's abbreviated to GHB very often.
Oh, that sucks. It's such a good name to abbreviate.
Yeah. And originally, like that was found originally in around 1400 AD.
Okay. You know, that's a point I missed when it came to Scotland.
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
There's also, you touched on the military nature. It's military, and it has been for years and years. Funny story, morbidly funny. Pipers played into battle frequently until World War I, when it was abandoned because all the pipers were getting shot and dying.
Well, yeah, it's stupid. It used to be like a show to go to war, you know, like everybody lines up and then they all play music and fanciful things and, you know, they all have tea afterwards, and then it became sort of a guerrilla thing in World War I, right?
Yeah.
That's where you're actually
however,
fighting.
it also used to serve a functional purpose.
Oh.
It was used to identify regiments based on the tunes they played. So, you know, this regiment would play My Bonnie Boy, and this regiment would play Loch Lomond or something like that. You know?
Well, that can be extremely counterproductive in war.
Well,
Here
yeah,
we
it's
are.
like I can't hear what they're playing over the sound of the gunshots and, you know, cannon explosions and yelling. So you can see why it's not the best form of communication. You'd think a flag or a radio would suffice.
Yeah, well, you
Then
know.
again, I'm no tactician.
I know, I've played you in Risk.
No, you haven't.
Anyway, so
all right.
I'm going to challenge you to something now.
Yes.
All right, next week you got to tell me as much as you can in 5 minutes about The Wreck of the Titan,
Okay.
which is a book.
Oh, it's a book.
It's a book.
It's not one of those terrible movies.
No.
Clash of the Titan.
No, The Wreck of the Titan is really interesting, and you definitely, if you miss this, I'm going to hit you. All right, so I've got the quiz this week.
I love quizzes. Oh,
Gray is really sort of just halfway between black and white. Really, that's what it is. And so I decided that I would make a quiz about the neglected middle. I'll say two extremes, and you have to tell me the middle of it. So if I say black and white, you would say
gray.
yes. All right, let's get started. Okay, so there's 8 questions. They're of varying difficulty. All right,
Okay.
Number 1. Love and hate.
Apathy.
Yes, that's exactly what I have right down. All right.
Awesome.
Number 2. Gamma rays and microwaves.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
Both a part of the electromagnetic spectrum.
A visible light?
Yes,
No.
you got it.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
Wait, what were they?
Gamma rays and microwaves. Visible
Really?
lights in between there, yeah.
Yeah, I guess
For
it
sure.
is.
It's a
That's right.
logarithmic
Okay.
scale, but, you know,
Yeah.
counts.
Gotcha.
All right, another sciencey one. Okay, so ionic bonds and non-polar covalent bonds.
Okay, let me think. All right, ionic bonds versus non-polar covalent bonds.
Yep, all part of the same
Polar
scale.
covalent bonds.
Yep, you got it. All right. Now, here's one that might be more difficult for you. Shorts and a skirt.
Shorts, skort.
Yes, all right, you got it. I assumed you knew nothing about this. All right. It's also called a scooter or a scant, which are terrible names.
I have a younger sister. I know these
crap.
terms.
Yeah, okay. All right, that's fair. All right, now here's a medical one. All right. You got 4. You're already passing. This might have been too easy. Number 5 is zygote and blastula.
Oh, jeez.
Halfway between there.
Okay. Zygote and blastula?
Yeah. After it's a zygote and before it blastulates. What is it called?
A morula?
God dang. Yes, it's morula. How?
I did this like a month ago.
Oh, God. I think you're going to get the next 3, too.
Do you know what the etymology of morula is?
No. What is it?
If you look at it, it's between, I think it's the 8 and like 36 cell stage of development.
It's exactly it. Yep.
And it looks like a mulberry. So that's what morula means.
Well, that's
morula
the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Okay. I think it looks more like a raspberry. So I guess that would actually be more a blastula. Anyway, so here are the next 3.
Do you know what a blastula requires?
It would have to blastulate.
Meaning?
That it would pucker in and create an internal cavity.
Right. So for people who don't know, we're talking about development of
we didn't even mention
most things. So a zygote is when you first fertilize an egg.
Yeah, up to 8 cells.
And then after it, it divides a couple of times, it becomes a morula, which is just a ball of cells. So it's like a ball of balls stuck together.
Yep.
And then eventually those cells continue to divide, and then it forms a cavity on the inside. So it's like a shell of balls,
which will become your digestive tract.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So
So there you go. Crash course on the first 3 stages of development.
There you go. All right. So a lion and a tiger.
A liger.
Yes. For bonus points, what's the other form? The one where it's a male tiger and a female lion. What's it called?
So, Tigron?
Tigon.
Damn. All right.
Well, you got it. You did.
Yeah. I still got it. All right.
Okay, a spoon and a fork.
A spork. Come on.
Well, these were the easy ones because I thought you'd miss some of the sciencey ones. I don't know.
You fool.
I thought you would have never heard of a morula. It seems so useless as a term. Okay, Europe and Asia.
Eurasia.
All right. You got perfect. For the first time in Mind the Gap history.
First. Oh, that's awesome.
I better get an easy quiz next week.
That was a good quiz, though. I liked the.
I thought so too. I enjoyed that, but I mean, some of them were a little easy. All right.
The quiz reminded me of that scene from Futurama with the neutral people.
Oh, yes.
Should we trust him? All I know is my gut says maybe.
Yes. Okay, so I guess that's everything. All right, that's our show. Email comments and questions to mindthegaphosts@gmail.com. Our next show will be called The Podcast Heard Around the World. Subscribe to us on iTunes, YouTube, or the podcast feed of your choice, and also be sure to like or rate us depending on your platform. Thanks for listening.
Your neutralness. It's a beige alert.
If I don't survive, tell my wife hello.